Prison overcrowding. No one can stop this.
New Mexican Mafia.
I'm above the law. James Whitey.
Bulger, right.
Yeah, so...
He just recently was killed.
Yes, and his eyeball was out. They know it was a padlock in a sock they used to smash this guy's head in. It looks like they also tried to extract his tongue, which is a mafia thing for snitches.
Right.
What's your take on the murder of him?
Well, here's the thing about that. He's 89 years old, and it took 3 assailants to attack him.
And he was in a wheelchair?
Yeah, but the whole point is that he's 89 years old. I don't care if you were King Kong. You're 89 years old and in a wheelchair. How much honor, how much respect can you get if it takes 3 of you to do it? Were you that afraid of him at that time? You know, and that's part of the problem that I saw in prisons was that, at least in the very beginning when I went in prison, a lot of times it was going to be a one-on-one fight. And they were more testing your mettle. They were more trying to show you why you should be a part of them and stuff. As time went on, and particularly when you got people like the skinheads and Nazi lowriders and these other little groups coming up, their thing came out to, we have to come in numbers. There's no honor in losing. So their thing was, if you were 89 and they had to send 20 guys against you, if they beat you down, hey, we did it. We won. And now they suddenly thought that was honorable.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of one of those things that I had problems with.
From the perspective of the family members of his victims, though, they were celebrating that he died because he'd kill people by baseball bat, running them over, shooting them in the head, all kinds of things.
Well, Jack Nicholson was the part that Jack Nicholson played in The Departed was based basically on Whitey Bulger.
Yeah, and Black Mass.
Yeah, and Black Mass. There was
Depp.
So the thing was, no, he wasn't a nice man. I'll give you credit. He wasn't a nice man. But here's the funny thing. He worked both sides of the street. You know, he worked the gangs when that worked for him. He worked the FBI when that worked for him.
And his brother was a senator, wasn't he? Or a politician?
Yeah, he was a politician and stuff. But of course, you got to remember, basically out of Boston, they would tell you, if you're New York and Boston, they would basically tell you if you're Irish, you are going to have one of the 4 P jobs. Work the ports, be a police, be a politician, or be in prison. Basically, that's all the Irish had coming. So, and that's the thing, is that in the beginning, was he a straight up, gangster that was going to the code of that? Probably. But there was a point in time when a lot of the guys that are involved in gangs, a lot of the guys that are involved in these different groups get tired. And then they want to leave. And unfortunately, most of those groups have it the blood in, blood out type thing. So you just can't retire. I mean, even people in the Mafia were known that they couldn't just up and retire. Sometimes they were retired in a nice way. Sometimes they were retired in a not so nice way. But that's the thing. And
so Whitey, he was a crime boss for an Irish crime family.
Yeah.
So he couldn't be considered Italian mafia.
No.
But the people he was snitching out, because he was working with the FBI for like almost 2 decades, some of those were mafia figures. He was snitching out the competition.
Exactly.
So on that basis, do you think this was a gang sanction hit? This was a mafia sanction hit with the tongue coming out? Snitch?
Quite honestly, what I feel, and this is just my gut feeling, is that these were 3 guys who wanted to try to show that they were somebody so they might gain some respect by the Mafia. Look, we killed this guy for you, Yeah. So I think it was more that than an actual, he'd only been there 1 day. And nobody actually knew he was going to show up at that prison directly. There may, there's always that this words gets out and blah, blah, blah. But in a direct way, there's not that people knew. So when he showed up, the word got on the line that day and he was killed that day. And so, and like I said, and because these guys were using mafia type tactics, they were trying to show this kind of a leaning type thing. But because they did it so sloppily, because one of them was his cellie, I mean, it's, I think that would really be something that somebody would have to look into to see whether or not they actually were, or they were wannabes, or maybe they were associated because they were Italian. But as most people tell you, not all Italians are mafia. Not all Irish are IRA, that type of thing.
Do you feel that the Federal Bureau of Prisons gave him a death sentence by moving him to where he was accessible, in the hope that everything he knew about the FBI and everything, all this knowledge he had would end? He couldn't use it against the feds.
Most certainly. And the thing was that I have learned in the last few years that the U.S. federal government will do whatever it takes to protect their own at whatever level, even if the things that they did were decades old. They'll still try to figure out how to cover up and protect their own.